Welcome to Powering Success, future-proofing your generator company, the go-to podcast for industry leaders in the generator installation and service business. Here we dive into the strategies and innovations that keep your company ahead of the competition and bring you insights from top experts and successful entrepreneurs. Let's get started and power up your potential. Now here's your host, marketing guru John Tedesco.
All right, today's guest is Dan Popp from PM Technologies, a generator-focused company that's been serving Michigan for nearly 3 decades and has expanded into Ohio with a growing commercial and residential presence. PM Tech has built a reputation around fast emergency response, deep service expertise, and supporting everything from homeowners and municipalities to healthcare facilities and major automotive suppliers. In this episode, we're diving into what it takes to scale a generator company the right way, from building nearly 4,000 service agreements to managing multi-location operations to growing in one of the most competitive generator markets in the country. Dan brings a ton of real-world insight into the commercial, industrial, and residential sides of the backup power business, and we're excited to have him on the show today. Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm good. Give me a brief. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Give me a brief, take us back to the beginning. What did PM Tech look like in the late 90s?
In the late 90s, well, we incorporated as an LLC in October of 98, give or take a few weeks of that. Mm-hmm. And basically it was myself and I have an equal partner that we were both service technicians for a competitor of ours. And we worked in the EPG field, the electrical power generation field. And that company did a very good job at taking its technicians through customer service training and things of that nature. I think what a lot of people forget is that in the field service business, regardless of what the industry is, the service technician is always the one that's the forward-facing person of the company, right? It's you're not taking your car into the dealership. You're actually sending the technician to a customer job site.
Sure.
So the technician is always working with the end user and any end user complaints. And obviously there's a lot of things a technician can't handle, but you have to be able to know how to present yourself. And the company that we worked for put a lot of time and effort into getting their service technicians through customer service training and things of that nature. So we actually, my one of the guys that I worked with and myself, the training class was down in Columbus, Ohio. So we were down there and it was a full week. It was a pretty intensive class. And, like any training class, whether it's sales training or, service training, whatever it is, you go to class for 8 hours and then you're stuck someplace that there's nothing else to do. So one afternoon, him and I were just talking and we had already eaten and everything like that. And it's like, hey, we'll just meet down at the hotel pool, right? So we go down to the pool and decide to get in the hot tub. We're sitting in the hot tub and my partner looks at me. This is the hot tub story I told you about. Yeah. My partner looks at me and he goes, do you ever think that we could do a better job at this ourselves? And I literally told him, like, every single day, I think that we can do better. And, we were dealing with a very large company that we worked for. And you just, again, as a field technician, always dealing with the end user and hearing their complaints, there was a lot of billing issues. There was a lot of return trips that were unnecessary because the logistics and the planning was bad and things of that nature. And when he said that to me, and it's something I thought about in this sales training class was kind of a catalyst to that, thinking like, man, I know we can do this better. And the inception of the company started in a hot tub in Columbus, Ohio. So that's what got us here today.
Yeah, and that's the entrepreneurship in you that was kind of screaming to get out. A lot of people would just want to do the best job that they can and learn it really good, but you just took it all the way out.
It absolutely, and for me personally, I've always just kind of wanted, I'm kind of a lone wolf and wanted to do things my way, and because I think I can do them better. Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I realized that my way is not always the best way, but in this instance, it absolutely worked. And again, we also got very lucky at the time too, because there was the local utility in Detroit Edison, which is now DTE Energy Technologies. They had created a subsidiary called DTE Energy Technologies that was doing all kinds of microgrid applications and off-grid power, and they were getting in the fuel cells and solar and all this other stuff back when it was really starting to get a push for everything that the utility companies were doing. with that. And because it was a subsidiary of the actual utility, they didn't have any technicians or anything like that. They had the capability to engineer and they had the capability to sell, but they didn't have a field service department. And my partner and I, again, we knew a few of the guys that we had worked with from the old company that had gone over there. And again, in this industry, John, the names never change. It's just the name on the shirt. That's the only thing that really changes. So you're always dealing with the same people over and over again, regardless of where they go in the industry.
Yeah.
And a few of the salesmen that we had worked with from the previous company had gone over there, and they had mentioned to their upper management, like, "Hey, we know a couple guys that started a company and they're mechanics." Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm an industrial engine mechanic. That's my background, and it was the right time, the right place, and everything else.
And how did everything kind of kick off? What was the ramp up?
The ramp up from that, it took a while, but as we continued to gain customers and supporting the DTE, the local utility, and the work that they were doing, and the
Hmm.
customers that we were picking up, and some of that stuff was from customers from other companies that were just not pleased with service work and things like that. I think I came onto the company full time, even though we incorporated in '98. I came on full time, which is another crazy story. I came on full time in the company after working for my previous job for almost 10 years, September 10th of 2001, which was the day before 9/11. So
Wow.
my second day on the job on that Tuesday, 9/11 happened.
Wow.
And at that time, I had a 6 month at home. My wife was again pregnant, and we had basically just moved. So I'm like, what the heck did I just do? Right? Like,
Oh
oh my
man.
God, the world's ending. So that was pretty tough initially. But we never looked backwards. We always kept moving forward, continued to
Hmm.
gain customer base, got out there, knocked on a lot of doors, a lot of previous customers and things like that we knew, again, from the customer service training and stuff like that, were unhappy with the service that they were being provided. And we were able to grow the business from that. And it probably within the first 5 or 6 years after 2001, I think we were up to about 8 employees and just kept on going from there. And currently, I believe we just hired one more person down in Ohio. So I think we're at 54 now.
Wow. Okay. But going back, what was the generator industry like back in Michigan 20 years ago?
Well, 20 years, I mean, that was, again, that was right around the cusp of Y2K too. So a lot of the
Yeah.
work that I was doing for the current company I was working with, that also carried over into the stuff that we were doing for PM Technologies as well. And the industry back then was crazy because everybody was worried that the world was going to end and everything else. So, and there was a lot of especially here in Metro Detroit, Southeast Michigan, it's so industrial automotive based and
Hmm.
everything that supports that industry. Everybody and their brother was buying generators and stuff like that. So that really helped launch too, because there was such a huge demand for not only getting equipment supplied, but as well as being able to maintain that equipment and everything else that goes along with it.
And generators specifically, was there a specialization? Was that specialization specifically important, or did you not have the time to kind of get into anything beyond that?
We didn't have the time. It
Yeah.
it was myself and my partner. We were on the road, full time. We were full time technicians as well with the other employees that we hired, trying to do the office work at the same time. And we ended up finally getting an office administrator in there to help with invoicing and things. It took a little while and some growing pains, but that's how we did it.
All right. And how does a dedicated generator company operate differently from, an HVAC company or electrical contractor that also installs generator? I mean, I know the difference, but how does that work?
Well, in again, in my background and my partner's background, we're industrial engine mechanics, so we're mechanics by trade, right?
Right.
Um, we've always put service first, and yes, we have grown into sales and everything else over the years. But in any industry, I think sales is always the golden child, and service is the redheaded stepchild, so to speak. We always looked at it the opposite of that because all we knew was how to be service technicians, right? And just sticking with that path and letting people know that we're here to support you even after the fact. A lot of people appreciated that.
Sure. And that's when the recurring service revenue starts becoming, the backbone of the company.
Absolutely, 100%.
And you learn that early on. A lot of guys are learning that, well after they do the installs, like, well, we should just start focusing on service contracts. You guys got to did it the other way.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's from our background, right? We were in our background in the early years was strictly focused on commercial industrial, which is why, that's about 70% of our overall business is on the commercial industrial side of this industry.
Yeah, right, right. And how much of the growth early on came from, big box retailers like Home Depot?
Home Depot was actually a really good customer of ours, and this goes back to being affiliated with the local utility when they were trying to do things. They
Mm,
actually had a program at the time here in the Detroit area that they were doing residential installations, right? So they had hired a few electrical contractors and I think a couple HVAC contractors, and they were basically putting mailers in the invoices for customers, just utility customers, and they sold a tremendous amount of residential generators here in the Metro Detroit area in that time. But they didn't have a service network. We were that service network for them. So we had the opportunity to work on everything. And after, like any utility company that has built-in profits, because it's all government controlled and things like that, when the utility company pulled the plug on this whole project that they did, it was a sandbox they just decided to stop playing in.
hmm
We ended up getting a lot of those customers turned over to us because we bought that part of the business. We bought the customer list, as well as the Home Depots of the world, as they got more and more popular through the early 2000s, and especially with Generac, they were probably the biggest push out there as a brand name. Um, Home Depot didn't have any service whatsoever, so we approached a couple different Home Depot area stores, not so much corporate. And we're able to go in there and talk to the people at Home Depot, and they started handing our card out. And we gained a tremendous amount of business from that because
Mm,
again, Home Depot didn't have the service support that we were able to offer people, and we still have a lot of those customers to this day.
yeah. Yeah. Home Depot doesn't do that anymore.
As
Right.
far as what?
Well, I mean, handing out your card, going to
Oh,
area
oh
stores
no,
and
yeah. Trust me, the store managers got in trouble for doing that,
yeah.
the couple local stores, but at the same time, their hands were tied too. They like we don't the people that they've contracted that became vendors for Home Depot, they weren't service companies. They could install it, but they wouldn't want to go fix it.
hmm
So yeah, in actually the few managers that we had good ties with and made some friendships with actually got in trouble from corporate for handing out our card and not being a vendor. So we all learned our lesson on that one.
There's liability there from on Home Depot's side anyway.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, it worked out for us though. You know what I mean? That's a Home Depot problem.
Yeah, right. Not your problem. Do you still work with Home Depot and any other retailers?
We do not. We've tried a few of the manufacturers, like the Costco programs and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, they're not lucrative enough for the focus that we have on the residential side of the market.
Mm.
We do a better job for ourselves.
Yeah, plus the margins are better on your own.
Margins are much better.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the Michigan generator market, what is Michigan's considered one of the biggest generator markets in the country. Why do you think standby power is so important there?
That's a great question, and I've always wondered why the Michigan, especially the Southeast Michigan market, is so popular across the United States. Um, I think a lot of it is definitely the manufacturing base that is here in the automotive industry and other industries as well, but especially the automotive industry in this area. All of the tier one, tier two, tier three auto suppliers,
Mhm.
everything is on time delivery now, right? So their contracts revolve around, they once they manufacture a part, it has to make to the factory within, an X amount of time, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. If they lose power and their production goes down, they shut down an entire auto assembly plant, and the liability there is tremendous, right? So I think there's a lot of that market for that, as well as Metro Detroit is, I think the population is around almost 7 million people or something like that. So there's quite a few people, and again, it's not just the immediate Detroit area. Southeast Michigan is almost it goes all the way from the Ohio border all the way up into Flint. That's kind of what we call the Southeast Michigan market.
Yeah, yeah. And how much did work from home culture
Oh, a
change that
lot,
market up a
a
lot?
lot.
Hmm.
When you came through COVID and all that stuff, and a lot of these people, again, they're making phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning because they have to talk to China or India or something like that. They can't be without power. And a lot of the manufacturers around here, a lot of companies, not just automotive, they were subsidizing people's expenses for home offices and things like that. And for a lot of them, a lot that was backup power generation. So we saw a big increase in our residential sales because of that reason.
Yeah, and then what happened after it? Maybe 2022, 2023?
It backed off a little bit, but we were fortunate enough in that. And again, in the generator business, you're a little bit of an ambulance chaser, right? So when the weather gets bad, especially on the sales side, when the weather gets bad, you got to get out there and you have to be able to, sell the equipment and get it installed in a reasonable time frame. That time frame right after COVID, Michigan experienced some pretty bad weather events,
Yeah.
and again, it was kind of the luck of the draw. So it never really slowed down. Now this past year was a little bit slower, but I understand that's industry wide too across the country.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially when you're the weather's been nice, for the last couple of years. At what point does a homeowner finally go from thinking about a generator to finally buying a generator when there's no real storm urgencies?
Exactly. And I've always told the sales guys, I mean, like in the generator business on the residential side, you've after a major storm event, if that person's been out of power for 24, 48, 72 hours, we've probably got about maybe 5 to 7 days to get out there and make a thing because
Yeah.
as soon as that initial crux of, I lost the food, I couldn't charge my tablet and my Wi-Fi was down. Once people get over that part of the inconvenience, they start thinking about buying hot tubs and stuff like that again. They don't want to put a generator on the side of the house, and the cost of generators and everything else. Of course, everything's just increased. So it's not a small investment for anybody anymore. It's pretty big. So you have to get out there and you have to make it happen.
Yeah, especially when it comes to, whole house standby power. So nobody wants a partial anymore. And the price I think is negligible.
To go from partial to full, yes. And
Yeah.
it's funny we mentioned and talk about Home Depot. Home Depot did a lot of those installations. And going back to the Generac product, when they had the little 100 amp sub panels that would only do part of the house, I cannot tell you how many service calls we got were like, "Hey, my front room's not working, or the other bedroom isn't on." Well, you get out there to do a service call and you figure, well, that's because it's not even hooked up to the generator.
Wow.
So we've dealt with a lot of that through the years as well.
How's the equipment now?
Um, Much improved across, and we handle several different brands. And I can't say that I have a favorite out of any of them. But again, I'm also looking at it from a mechanic standpoint, and I know that everything has issues, everything breaks. And now everything is so computer dependent. There's software issues all the time.
Hmm.
But I would say that the overall quality of the equipment has absolutely improved and become much more reliable over the years.
Yeah. I would say on all fronts too. I think all manufacturers have improved greatly. Um, so commercial and industrial expansion. So it's about, I don't know, 70% of your business is commercial industrial. So
Yeah.
how does that different in your world from residential?
Well, obviously, you're almost never on the commercial industrial side. You're almost never dealing with the decision maker. You're always dealing with, unless
Yeah.
it's on the purchasing side, right? But even then, in the corporate world, you're dealing with purchasing agents and things like that. Um, the timelines can take a longer time, and I tell my sales guys too, if you've got something that you've worked on, put it in a file. Do not throw it away because these projects have a habit of after a year's time frame popping up again out of nowhere. You thought it was dead, and all of a sudden it's there again. I think everything's a little bit slower in that regard. Um, we fortunately just as of January, we actually, even though we are a generator distributorship and focus on the service and sales side of that stuff, we did recently in January purchase an electrical contracting firm. So now we have the ability to do that for our customers as well because we saw a service need there as well. with just service replacements and things of that nature. And the company that we purchased was really big into the commercial side of the industry, so we have that capability now as well. The homeowners is more of a feel good thing. It's more of a, and not that you don't build relationships with all your customers, but when you're sitting down at the kitchen table in somebody's house, you have to make them feel good about it. You have to kind of, sell the value of the product and everything else. And then our service capabilities, because we're 24/7, 365. I've got guys on call all the time. Yeah, I think in this business you have to do that. I don't think
Sure.
you can't do that. But that's just the way that I approach it. But on the commercial industrial side, these are planned projects. These are a lot of times it's required by insurance requirements. It's part of their contract, again, with the automotive companies and things like that. Um, they both have their definite idiosyncrasies as to what you have to deal with on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those bigger companies, automotive supplier network and, healthcare facilities, what's the backup power demands currently like in Michigan? Do they have a lot of power outages?
It has gotten better. That's part of the big push with the local utility company, especially on the eastern side of Michigan. The western side of Michigan is a different utility company. It's Consumers Energy over there. It's a
Hmm.
little bit different. Detroit historically has a very old power grid. It's an older city. There's a lot of above ground power lines, at least to the distribution centers. So in the past, there has been a tremendous amount of power outages, which goes back to just after COVID and all the bad weather. The utility company, unbeknownst or not to the benefit of companies like mine, they've actually gone through and done a lot of tree clearing and stuff like that. So the grid reliability has definitely gotten better, and I think a lot of that is just because the utility companies put more effort into it. But we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, I guess more integrations of data centers and making it more vulnerable to brownouts, things like that are gonna definitely weigh on the structure.
Well, I mean, whether you want to look at the good, bad, or somewhere in the middle of all this data center stuff, I really don't know what's going to happen. I know Michigan, just because we're the Great Lakes state, right? And there's a tremendous amount of groundwater for cooling of these data centers and things like that.
Hmm.
Michigan has become a real hotbed of controversy for data centers and all the townships and municipalities and stuff like that, and everybody pushing back on them, but they're coming in anyway. So we're going to see where that goes. Now, unfortunately for us, and I think somebody like me, a lot of those data centers, these projects were already planned out years ago. So the procurement of equipment and stuff like that's already all done, right? It's just a matter of getting the permits and being able to start building the thing. I am a little bit concerned, and maybe everybody that's listening to this is that we have heard that these data centers that can't the local utility can't meet the demand that they're having or they
Right.
need, and they're running generators. They're poaching generator technicians left and right, and they're paying them a premium in wages to get them. So I am a little bit concerned about that because I don't want to start losing employees. But
Wow.
we'll see where it goes.
Oh, that's in interesting insight. Yeah, recruitment has recruitment been a big issue for you guys?
It's on and off.
Mhm.
The hardest part is the EPG field's a little bit different because it's hard to find a guy, a mechanic, right, that also has some aptitude to be able to work on the electrical side of things and the power
Yeah.
generation side, but also wants to get dirty, right? Because you'll have an electrician, typically those guys, they love doing what they do, but they don't want to go out and change oil and adjust valves and
Yeah.
replace a radiator, right? That's not
Yeah.
what they do. And then the HVAC guys are kind of the same way, right? At least in my experience. So it's easy to find people that can do one part of what needs to happen. It's hard to find technicians that can do everything.
Yeah.
And so it has been a little bit difficult. You go through a lot of people. I'm fortunate right now. We've got a really good crew. I've
Yeah.
got one of my employees. We just celebrated his 20 years with us. So, but it has been difficult to find qualified people, and I think that without getting into like generational gaps and things like that. I just don't think younger people are as interested in the service industry, which to me I think is probably not the smartest thing, because I really think that AI and data centers are going to drive everybody. You're still going to need people to go out and fix stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there a lot of parents are pushing trades. That's for sure. I mean,
And
money is there.
and I think if anybody or you listen to Mike Rowe and all this stuff and everything else, I 100% everything that he says is true. And that's what we're seeing right now with some of our younger technicians.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So scaling into Ohio, you've expanded into Michigan, you've expanded from Michigan into Ohio with operations in Dayton. So what are some of the biggest challenges entering a new market?
We were fortunate enough customer wise, and the reason that we made that thing is that we got a fairly large contract with a cellular company. So there was a lot of initial work that we had to do. We didn't really have to grow the market that
Hmm.
much. Um, finding people down, finding branch managers and things of that nature, and people that think the same way that you do and have the same goals is can be difficult at times.
Yeah.
So it's more of a people person. As far as the work, I mean, we got involved with the state of Ohio and things like that, and the work is there, and regardless of the amount of competitors that we have and everything else. Even though Ohio's a different market than the Detroit market, but it's the hardest part has been trying to get the branch to operate. I don't, the work has not been the problem. It's the management side of things. It's the people side of things
Yeah,
has been the
because you
core.
have to have whole separate crews, whole separate management. It's a whole other hub. Logistically, right? You have to have it all broken out.
It is. And then, for other business owners that may listen to this, you've got your HR issues and things like that. And all of a sudden, you've got somebody down in Ohio that doesn't like this, and you have to deal with that. And it can be difficult. And Dayton's about 3.5, just under 4 hours from Detroit. So it's not a terrible trek, but it's not something you want to do 3 times a week or anything like that. So trying to get the management and the team built, that's what takes the time.
Yeah, I mean, sure. And plus you need to get the business.
100%.
So what's your roadmap for making that work, making that happen?
Right now, my branch manager that was down there, he actually retired. So now I've got my COO goes down there on Mondays, and then my corporate sales manager goes down there on Thursday, Fridays. So we've got that branch covered, like that management wise.
Hmm.
Growing it is really getting out there and knocking on doors and making things happen. Um,
Yeah.
and again, Ohio's a tough market, and if you've got any customers of yours that operate down in Ohio, I'm sure they can attest to this. Ohio is a very, very large state, and when I say that is there's a lot of metropolitan areas. I mean, you've got Columbus, you've got Cincinnati, you've got Dayton, you've got Toledo, you've got all of those, Cleveland. There's these big city centers, but just outside of those is nothing but farmland. So there's a tremendous amount of driving that has to happen in Ohio.
Yeah.
The logistics are tough.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we're just a little bit spoiled here in the Detroit, Southeast Michigan market, as well as over in the Grand Rapids branch, is everything just seems a little bit closer. Logistically, you can schedule a guy for, 2, 3 jobs a day when that happens. In Ohio, sometimes, you can only schedule him for one job because he's got to drive 5 hours one way to get there.
Wow. 5 hours one way. Well, I mean, you can span 100 miles the same amount of time you could span 15 miles in Detroit.
And that's been a little bit of the growing pains with Ohio, as well as learning that. And
Yeah.
then going back to the office staff and managing the office staff and say, hey guys, if it's not an emergency call, let's
Hmm.
see if we can get that customer that's 5 hours away that just happens. And it may be one of our bigger customers in the healthcare facility. We do an awful lot of work with nursing homes and hospice and things like that. And
Yep.
it's part of their network. So we have to take care of it. But maybe we can say like, hey, you know what, we're going to be out there next Tuesday and be able to get 2, 3 jobs done in that area at the same time. So it's getting people on in the office trained around those types of issues as well.
Yeah, and healthcare power systems are a whole different level of responsibility. So you have a
Which is
dedicated crew.
no, it's not a dedicated crew. We don't. Everybody's that, but it's again, it's the response time, right? It's like, do we really want to make that 5 hour drive for that one job? Well, we have to because we're supporting 12 of their other facilities as well.
Yeah. The question is, can they even wait the 5 hours? Doesn't healthcare require to have people on site?
They've all got their maintenance crews and stuff like that. And 9 times out of 10, most contracts are written around a 2 to 4 hour response time. It's
Hmm.
how you interpret that response time, right? Is it actually boots on the ground in 2 hours, or is it just somebody calls you back within 2 hours?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's the stuff that you got to figure out on the front end when you sign these agreements.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the craziest situations you find yourself in when it comes to when it comes to healthcare, I think.
Probably the immediate need, right? Because when
Yeah.
they've got a generator that goes down, and we do stuff that a lot of our competitors don't do either on the rental side. We not only provide rental equipment, we also do the installation of it as well. So we'll do the hookup. A lot of other companies out there, they'll rent you the units. A lot of my competition, they'll rent you the units, but you got to find your own electrical contractor to do the hookup, or you have an electrical contractor that's got to go and rent equipment from somebody else and bring it on site, right? So we're able to do all of that, which has been a big boon for our business and being
Yeah.
able to provide that kind of service. But it's probably the immediate need, kind of like what you're saying with the people on site or the 2 4 hour thing. It's having people on site, and when that even if they're not in an outage and that equipment's not running, they know that the state fire marshal is going to crack down on them should something happen, right? Because it's life safety equipment. That's what we work on. So that's probably the biggest crux of being able to just get all that stuff moving all at the same time.
Right. And you have to be able to service multiple brands, right? So you're crossing Generac, Kohler, Briggs, Wildcat.
Everything we
Yeah.
work on everything, which you to service larger customers, you have to because a lot of them don't have consistent equipment across the board.
Hmm.
The biggest issue that anybody, and I'm sure there's other guys out there that would have the same issue as me, other business owners, is that a lot of this software has become proprietary per manufacturer. So there are just some things that you cannot do when it comes to control panels and programming and things of that nature. Fortunately, we've got some pretty good contacts in the industry. We've been doing it long enough that should we need to call basically one of our competitors out because we can't get into a control panel, we make that happen, and we let the customer know that too, which is also kind of a salesman because some of the equipment that we sell doesn't have proprietary controls on it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you bought this unit because they told you it was the best, but now you're stuck and you can never shop anywhere else.
Yeah.
If somebody told you you can only go to Acme grocery store for the rest of your life, most people don't want to be told what to do, right? And of course, that conversation with the customer always goes like, wait a minute, they didn't say anything about that. I'm like, well, of course they didn't. So and again, I've got in the Detroit area because we have so much equipment that we take care of. The customers that we have that there are some proprietary things that I can't do software related wise. They understand. They get it. But they're happy with our service and our response and everything else. And also it goes back to that, a lot of these people just want to they're taking care of facilities and things of this nature. They want to the generators, it's typically on the commercial industrial side, it's typically out back by the dumpsters, right? It's out of sight, out of mind until it doesn't work. So they
Yeah.
just want to be able to make one phone call and get the problem taken care of. And that's really where we've excelled as a company in being able to do that. And I think a lot of that falls back on our service focus and just how focused we are on service, not just the sale.
Yeah, sure. Well, speaking of the sale, I mean, talking about marketing and lead generation, you described generator marketing as somewhat like ambulance chasing, meaning, speed matters after outages. So how do you navigate that?
Well, you're helping me out with all that, so
Right.
you can probably answer that question better than I can. Um, which, by the way, just to let you know, we got no less than 4 leads this weekend, which so
Over the
everything is
weekend. Yeah.
happening. And
Yeah.
for everybody out there that doesn't know, John and I just started doing business together, and he's been doing an absolutely outstanding job knocking into marketing out of the park, because that has been a pain in my butt for years and years and years, and the amount of focus that it takes and being able to know everything about it and be consistent with it. It's hard to do in a company when you don't have a dedicated person focused on that. And we were never at a point where that was our primary focus. Um, but obviously your Facebook marketing, your Google ads, and everything else that you get involved in, a tremendous amount of our residential installations come from referrals. It's very important to knock on a couple doors either side of wherever you're installing a generator, because you'd be surprised the amount of people that like actually just once you have a guy and your friends or family or neighbors are happy with it, typically those people, they're going to go that route too. So referrals is huge. You really have to do the follow up, and it's the customer service too, right? A person buys a generator from us, I want to be able to send them a handwritten postcard and say like, hey, thank you very much for your business. We look forward to, being your service provider for years to come and everything else. And people appreciate that, because I don't think it happens that much anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Referrals are super, super important. What one thing beyond that is probably getting reviews, and
There,
touting that.
with Yeah, and everybody looks at reviews now. I mean, I'm guilty of, if I go to buy something on Amazon, I look, okay, how many stars does it have,
Yeah,
right? Everybody else can be the guinea pig. I'll trust what they say.
sure. And
But,
especially if
yeah,
you're hiring
reviews.
somebody to come to your house.
Exactly,
Mhm.
100%. Yeah, reviews are big, and the, that was another issue that we had, that we kind of solved with changing our operating system over to Service Titan. If people are out there familiar with Service Titan,
Hmm.
that's been a love-hate relationship. But one of the good things that happened with Service Titan was it does automatically integrate with Google reviews and all that stuff, which is something that we were not doing, weren't focused on it.
Yeah.
Probably, and again, it wasn't that top of mind thing, but it has helped tremendously, because we've gotten people that find us now because of that reason.
Yeah, the notifications have to go out right after the job is closed or generator startup.
Yep.
Right. Okay. You said that marketing's been a pain in the butt last many, many years. So, tell me a little bit about that, what some of those pain points were.
Hiring companies that basically were learning off of the dollars that we were giving them, and on trying to figure out the market, trying to do it in-house and just not having anybody that was dedicated to it all the time, because you really do have to put some time and effort into it, and especially to get it automated, which none of us are IT computer guys, so the automation side of that is difficult. Um, Figuring out, the generator industry's never been a very sexy industry.
Hmm.
It's just not. So trying to figure out content and build on that and everything else, it's almost a full-time job, I think, and especially for a smaller business, and just how important it is, because there is so much competition out there. It's difficult, and it's been difficult. It's been a pain, and we've gotten good at it, and then we kind of fall away from it, or we assign somebody internally to start handling it, and then they get moved to do something else.
Yeah.
It's just, we've never been consistent with it, and fortunately got involved with you guys and your company, John, and it's been a godsend, because it's taken away all those pain points. I mean, you guys just send me something, hey, that looks great, let's do it, and it just happens. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And that's kind of why I think most marketing companies struggle to understand the industry, because there's so much underlying um, engineering and purpose behind it. And there's just so much that you need to kind of learn. This is why we do podcasts, is so that we can really dive into the industry and, get underneath and figure things out and figure out how you guys have started and how you're operating and, and how you've grown. Uh, it helps every step of the way.
I agree.
Yeah. And you position PM Tech as a mid to high priced. How do you communicate that value to customers effectively?
We're going to let them, well, one, to our prices are what they are. You know what I mean? If and you almost have to vet those customers that are already looking for a deal before they even pick up the phone.
Hmm.
It's like, I'm sorry, but this is what it is, right? And I kind of learned that, dealing with a lot of electrical contractors is, again, we were not an electrical contractor. Um, we were a service company, and providing bids to electrical contractors and having those guys come back and say, like, well, can you knock off another 2%? You're right there, you're right there. And you come to find out, well, you had already won the bid. They're just trying to increase their margin on their end, right? And I'm taking the hit on my side. So you literally, like, no, this is what the price is, and this is the value that we bring to the table, and this is our capabilities, and this is how long we've been in business, and this is how many customers we have, and everything else. And I mean, if you're shopping for a deal, I'm not your guy. I'm just not. And
Yeah.
that's worked out good for us.
Yeah. No, that's good. And that's important too. I mean, that's how businesses grow, is to stick to your guns and stick to your price structure, stick to your policies, and kind of move into try to close as much business as you can and just keep going.
When you provide that customer interaction, and you show them that you're bringing value to the table, the bad customers will weed themselves out. They
Yeah.
just will. And then
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Right. 100%. Okay. So the future of the generator industry, we kind of covered a little bit. You talked about the data centers and you talked about getting into these different markets. But where do you think the standby power industry is headed over the next 10 years?
And you know what? I wish I knew,
Yeah.
because I'd probably be able to retire. But at this point, the data center is such a huge part of this industry, because it's happening whether people want it to or not. And the utility companies have proven that they cannot provide the power that these places need. And it's not even necessarily the generation capacity, it's the infrastructure capacity. They can't get the power to these places. And they're proving that out in Utah right now. I
Mm,
think that there was a project out there that bought like 27, like 2 meg generators, something crazy like that out there, because they have to be able to have that kind of power on site. And the state of Utah, or whatever utility companies out there, just they can't provide it. The infrastructure is
yeah.
not there. And with the aging infrastructure that we currently have in the United States, that everybody's been talking about for years and years, um, I I think it's only going to increase. I think the power demands across the country, and as data centers suck up all the energy and everything else, I think it's going to get more. It's going to get more important in everybody's mind. And even if they're not suffering outages, I think it's going to, we really need to, the industry, everybody needs to approach it as like an insurance thing. It's an insurance policy, right? And I think that's really going to be the driving factor moving forward.
Yeah, that's good advice. You know, uh, if you could give one piece of advice to a generator company owner trying to grow from like a small operation to a regional powerhouse, what would that be?
The biggest piece of advice that I could
Yeah.
give them is, again, most of the problems in this company have always come around the people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it would be to hire slow and fire fast. That's
Oh
that's
yeah.
my number one thing that I would tell somebody.
That's
And
everybody's advice.
trying
Gary
to,
Vee's advice, big time.
yep, yeah, just and I've been guilty of it too, and a bit of a bleeding heart, which
Yeah.
which helps when you get to a size where you can have middle management kind of handle a lot of those issues. In the past, we've hung on to employees that we shouldn't have, because I'm like, I get it. I'm human too, right? I've got a mortgage, and I got kids and everything else, and so do
Hmm.
these other people. So you really try to work with them, and think that they're going to come along, and they just don't. They
Yeah.
and you look back, and you knew it wasn't going to work. You have to be able to pull the trigger. So again, hire slow, get good qualified, dedicated people, and if they're not working out, you got to move on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, no, that's good. I have a bunch of other smaller questions. I wonder if we can speed through them real quick. And you
Lightning
said you
round,
didn't
go.
have you didn't have a favorite brand, but what would be your favorite brand?
Well, the company that I came from when I was started out was Caterpillar, so I still bleed yellow.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's good. And your most underrated part of the business?
Probably over-the-counter part sales.
Hmm.
There, especially on the residential side, there's a lot of people out there that are do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't I? I mean, I'm not going to get that business regardless on the service side. I'm not going to be able to get that service
So why not
contract, but
sell the parts?
yeah, why shouldn't I sell them the parts? I mean, they're going to do it themselves anyway.
Are you selling the whole units and switches?
Occasionally we have somebody come in, but
Yeah.
that's a rarity at this point.
Okay.
The majority of our residential sales are us installing them ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, Biggest operational headache?
That's a tough one. I
Maybe marketing.
Yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, let's marketing. But you've taken that that pain away from me. But coming up to that, I think marketing would have been a good answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as of today, I mean, we haven't been working with you for that long, but as of today, what's the best lead source?
Well, after this weekend, it's the leads that are coming in off of the website.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and it may have been because it was a holiday weekend and people were more apt to sit around and stuff like that. They weren't working things.
Yeah.
But I got another lead this morning. So I mean, we all of a sudden it just started happening. And like you said, we've only been doing this since like the end of April. So
Yeah, but once you get everything dialed in and everything's working together, that's when it starts to happen.
it worked this weekend.
Nice. One business lesson learned the hard way. Maybe getting started.
Yeah. It would again, I'm going to go back to the employees, just being able to have the wherewithal to get rid of somebody when you need to. And
Okay.
it's tough. I hate getting rid of people. I can't stand it.
Yeah. And what excites you most about PM Tech's future?
The growth, the potential growth. Our next big venture, because it's only about an hour and a half from Dayton to Indianapolis, give or take. And we're getting a tremendous amount of work over in the Indy area right now for this. And it's my Ohio sales guy that there's customers on the Ohio's border that have, locations in Indianapolis, and they're asking us to do all this other stuff. Plus, we also take care of the VA hospitals down in the Indianapolis area and things like that. So getting another branch opened up in Indy would be my next big push.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Dan, thank you very much for your time. Yeah, we're just over 40 minutes, so I appreciate your time and coming on the show and sharing the hot tub story with me. I think it's great that you basically you brought it down to one moment in a hot tub is when PM Tech was started. I think that's awesome.
That is a true story. That was literally how it happened.
Thank you for listening to Powering Success, future-proofing your generator company. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. For more information or to connect with John, visit him online at www.generatorseo.com. If you found value in today's content, please share with others and leave us a rating and a review. Until next time, this has been Powering Success.